Hello everyone, Ladislas Maurice, the Wandering Investor. So today we are in beautiful Buenos Aires and we'll be discussing the real estate market here because the boom has started really. We're in a bull market. We'll be going to a beautiful historical apartment here in San Telmo, right around literally on the plaza. And we'll be doing all of the ROI numbers, both for the long-term and the short-term markets. And then we'll go see a speculation. So some really affordable real estate that is an interesting speculation, but high risk. So we'll be doing all this together with Max, who is my realtor here in Buenos Aires. Max, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again.
So tell us, Max, you've been here for many, many years in Buenos Aires, focusing on the real estate market, and things have changed in the past year or so.
Substantially. I would say we bottomed out year before last. It continues to be a bullish market. It continues to be a buyer's market. But there's a wonderful little window where more and more people are noticing Argentina. It's getting to be on everybody's lips. And so that has garnered a great deal of interest from people both in North America and Europe. And so we continue to get many inquiries with people wanting to invest for many different reasons, for the numbers game only or for the lifestyle as well.
Cool. So, and I think there's a number of catalysts here in this market which we need to discuss. I mean, the main one being the reforms by the Milei government. But we're not going to be discussing politics or how things are going to turn out. Essentially, as long as the reforms continue, the real estate market will do very well. If they stop, then probably won't do that well anymore. But what are some of the other more specific catalysts? What are you seeing now in terms of price increases, in terms of volume of transactions, in terms of reforms specifically pertaining to real estate?
Well, we're seeing more and more movement, and a lot of the properties that are being transacted tend to be for the 120K, 150K average price. There's more, there's less. And as you said, on the coattails of President Milei's win, there have been not fewer than 2 laws that have helped modify the entire transaction, making it a little bit less expensive or a little bit less overwhelming from a tax perspective for people to transact real estate. And so this, along with other things, non-real estate, has aided in people's interest in brick and real estate as an investment. Not just locals, but foreigners.
Cool. So some of the reforms are cuts in terms of real estate transaction taxes when you buy and when you sell. Effectively, there are a few caveats, but generally speaking, you now have to pay 2 to 3 percentage points less versus a year ago when you buy real estate. So closing costs have been decreased by 2 to 3 percentage points, which is quite significant actually. So it really shows the government's drive to push the real estate market here. And then can you discuss the Blanqueo as well? Because that's a big one.
Yes, the Blanqueo was basically you can describe it as a financial pardon of all Argentine citizens who had assets overseas, primarily insofar as liquid money is concerned. Sure, real estate and other assets as well, but predominantly money. The government, this had happened once before during President Macri's term, and essentially what it means is all Argentine citizens who have assets overseas, we're not going to ask you anything about them, just bring them in, repatriate them, because we want for the wheels of the economy, and we want dollars in the economy and euros in the economy, and we want for that to move within the confines of our country. So they've made a concerted effort across the board to get that money in, and it was about a 2 or 3 month plan, which I believe at the end of the day brought in something like $38 billion.
Look, and when money comes into Argentina, into bank accounts, people still don't trust the banks here, and they have a lot of good reasons to not trust the banks.
Sure.
The capital markets are also not very developed. So what people do typically is they just buy real estate. So I think your projection is that a lot of that money will end up in the next 1 or 2 years here in core Buenos Aires real estate.
Absolutely. There's a cultural factor which stems, I think, from our Italian / Spanish / generally speaking European mindset, which is our great-grandparents, the Spanish saying, compra ladrillo, buy brick, buy land. Mark Twain famously said, buy land, they're not making it anymore. So the argument is, you buy land, you buy property, they can't take it away from you, it's yours, there isn't any co-ownership of the government or local government. It's yours, it's registered, and that's the end of the story. And it garners value over time. And this is true everywhere. Now, granted, there are bullish markets and there are bearish markets. So there are times when it's better to sell and there are times when it's better to buy. But the reality is that over time, that garners value, and it's always been the case, and there's really just no two ways about it. So as a result, it's always been every Argentine's go-to investment or go-to security blanket.
Cool. So up until early 2024, prices dropped here in Buenos Aires, starting from the crisis in 2018, roughly. They were just dropping. They kind of consolidated in 2023, early 2024, and since then prices have risen, as well as volume of transactions. Can you give us a bit of an idea in terms of how much have prices increased roughly in the core areas of Buenos Aires, and in terms of liquidity, how much of an improvement there's been? Because it's really an issue coming from North America or Europe. You come here, it's a very illiquid market, but it's become less so.
Yeah. No, I would add to that the crisis insofar as the real estate becoming a buyer's market started prior to 2018, but 2018 and especially 2019 and 20 and during the pandemic were just abysmal in terms of transaction costs. We did indeed bottom out, I think, right around September of 2024. We started to see slow upticks, not across the board, but in different locations and different private sellers who were bringing up their prices. A lot of it having to do with the faith that we or they had in the new administration. We've been seeing upticks in prices over the course of the last year of anywhere between, it can be very varied, so anywhere between 5% and 15%. It can vary quite a bit because, as always, there is an irony to the fact that the person who sells in Buenos Aires more often than not doesn't have a necessary or immediate need to sell. So they will have this wait and see attitude about, oh no, I don't want 135K for this, I want 170K for this because of this, this, and this, which they might have their reasons. Those reasons may or may not adhere to what the market is doing. So that creates something of a disconnect between what the market does and what people expect. But to be conservative, I'd say anywhere between 5%, 10%, an increase in prices that we've seen, which doesn't mean that it doesn't continue to be a buyer's market. It still continues to be appealing when you compare it to other world-class cities.
Yeah, but the bull market has just started, so if things continue, it'll continue this way. And then another catalyst, mortgages, which are not available to non-residents. Let's be clear about this, but mortgages are coming back in the game, right?
Mortgages are starting to reappear. Argentina has had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with mortgages. Historically, as you know, the only true way of buying real estate has been cash on the barrelhead, which literally means you come with the bills and you plop them down and you start to count them, which is not as scary as it sounds or as unsafe as it sounds, but it is a big culture shock and a big differential in what people from US, Canada, Europe would be accustomed to. Mortgages are here to, A, repair that to a degree to where you don't have to come with all that money. I mean, never mind the practical aspect, but the fact that not everybody has $100,000, $120,000, $150,000 just lying around to buy real estate. And so mortgages try to fix that so that home ownership can be more readily available to people. Now, it's past the planning phases. You see them, you see more of them, but I would still say they are few and far between. And while we have received inquiries of people wanting to buy, this is local, people wanting to buy, I would say maybe 20% of them are asking us, could the purchase be done through a mortgage broker? So that's the numbers that we're seeing in terms of how readily available it is for people, how easily it is to obtain.
Cool. All right, really interesting. So we're gonna go check out the apartment, which is right here, the building right there. So on this plaza. And can you tell us a little bit more about the plaza? Because right now it's just people drinking and stuff, but on weekends it's really nice here.
Yeah, this is Plaza Dorrego, which is, I would say, the heart of San Telmo, which was one of the older areas of the city of BA. Now, on Saturday and Sunday, this is completely closed off for a radius of about 4 or 5 blocks, and it is a artisanal market antiques fair, which is, I think, one of the highlights from a tourist standpoint of what people really, really enjoy.
So, Max, can you tell us, who is this type of apartment for?
Well, I would say that the North American crowd, typically people from the United States and Canada, really, really are attracted to this kind of building because it's something very far removed. Yeah, this is the old style mailboxes for each individual unit, so they get their mail here. So it's maintained that old school charm, and it's also a building that has been maintained, generally speaking. And it has that old school charm. This building, you have to think, is upwards of 110, 120 years old. I do believe it's a cultural heritage site. The city, by law, by ordinance, has to maintain the face of it and clean up. And it's just something that you don't otherwise see in most, if not all, of the modern cities around North America. Sure, you'll see a lot of this in Europe because it is a veritable slice of Europe, which isn't to say our European clients don't like it too, but yeah, I would predominantly say it is the North American crowd that loves this.
We'll see the numbers. In terms of rentals, it's abysmal, like most of Buenos Aires. So we'll do the numbers in precisely so that you can see why, you understand. But just from a lifestyle point of view, I mean, you're looking at 150,000, 160,000. Let's go check out the apartment. And you just walk out and
you're right in the middle of everything.
Right in the middle of it. It's just gorgeous. I mean, for North Americans, this is fantastic. All right, let's go. Lovely.
So this is the place. It's located towards the back of the building. As I mentioned, this is a very old building, so it's a very, very quiet space. It is a large one-bedroom apartment. As you can see, it's got very high ceilings, and it's in the vicinity of 90 square meters. Price point would be in and around $160,000, with possibly some margin of negotiation for something of this caliber, of this square footage, in this condition, in this area, and with the added benefit of it being cultural heritage, because it's an old building, with some manner of discount, which could be between 5%, 6% possibly. It's always also going to depend on how motivated a seller may or may not be, but across the board, and especially as you head into San Telmo and these areas, you can see a bit more of negotiating.
Yeah, so the market is a bit hotter. It's all very relative, let's be clear. Around Palermo, Recoleta, all that, but San Telmo, Monserrat, it's a bit...
Exactly. You will find that there is more of a method to the madness of what the prices are doing in areas such as Monserrat, San Telmo, San Cristobal, San Nicolas, a bit to the south, even further south with Barracas. But still, it is worth mentioning, we said that it can be any number of different price points. You're not going to see necessarily one area with a fixed amount, plus or minus, ebb and flow of a small amount, another amount with its own set of rules. It's going to be more dependent on what that specific seller needs, wants, and is looking to do.
It's the hallmark of an illiquid market, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I picture this, like you say, you're North American, you're somewhere in the US or Canada, it's winter, it's cold. I mean, right now we're in February, the weather's horrendous up north. And here we're just going around. It's lovely. People are drinking coffee.
Oh, it's gorgeous. We have under 30 degrees centigrade. It's a beautiful, summer day. People are out and about. The days are long, and everybody loves long days, and everybody loves warm days, and to go out for coffee or beer or what have you. So you do get a lot of the snowbirds who love to fly down and escape the short, gloomy, cold days.
And $150,000, $160,000. Whatever, and you get this amazing lifestyle and something that's cute. I mean, obviously this is not, modern or anything, but it's very livable, and it's part of the charm of being in Buenos Aires. Cool. So let's sit down and do the exact numbers so that people understand why you do not buy this for rentals.
Let's do it.
All right.
So in terms of rundown of numbers in a place such as this, a listing price would be about $160. With the possibility of a closing price in the vicinity of $150,000. The closing costs, which are in and around 8%, are actually down from last year's 10%, which is obviously a huge plus. So right then and there, you're talking about a grand total all-in investing of $162,000 US. Let's talk about what happens next. A long-term rental for a place such as this might go at in and around $500 monthly. The occupancy rate, we might say, is of about 50%.
So it's really, San Telmo is not really a market for long-term rentals, is what you're saying?
No, I would say not, because the appeal is, again, for the tourist crowd that come here either on vacation. In some cases, they spend some time here, sure, upwards of a month, but it isn't what you typically see for San Telmo. Insofar as other fees, we would have the tenant finder's fee, which is 4.15% plus VAT, and property management fee of 5% plus VAT. And then insofar as other utilities and taxes, property taxes will run at around 130 US yearly.
So not too bad, 130 bucks a year.
Not too bad at all. And yearly maintenance of around $500 US for just anything that the property might need insofar as upkeep or the minimal wear and tear that longer term rentals would generate.
Cool. So this gets us to a net rental yield pre-tax of 1.3%, which is abysmal by global standards.
Sure, absolutely. If you get down to the brass tacks of the math of it, yeah, I have to agree with it.
Yeah. So people don't come here for long-term rentals to invest.
No, the investing is the capital gains of it. I never tire of saying it. There's a percentage of it where people are doing it for the lifestyle, for the ownership overseas. A lot of them, believe it or not, are a common denominator of late is, I don't like the direction my country is going in. Now, that may or may not be of interest to investors, strictly speaking, but it is something that we have seen. But predominantly, yes, it's the appeal that it has from a lifestyle and cultural standpoint.
Yeah, and the diversification. I mean, Argentina is in a completely different moment of the economic cycle compared to Western countries.
For sure.
If the reforms continue. So there's a lot of appeal in this for sure. So, okay, so you're saying most people come here for capital gains and some element of lifestyle. So Airbnb, logical. Can we do the numbers for Airbnb?
So when it comes to the short-term rental, when it comes to short-term rentals and Airbnb listings, at that point, you would be talking about a $50 a night average to the tune of 60% occupancy. Management fee, we're talking about $300 fixed per month plus 5% plus VAT of turnover. And then insofar as monthly fees would go, you have electrical, which would be around $30 a month, HOAs, $90 a month, gas, $20 a month, water, $20 a month, internet comes out at about $75 a month.
So the internet's gone up a lot here.
It has. And property tax, as before, yearly $130. And the maintenance fees would be a little bit higher at $750 because ostensibly you would have a bit more wear and tear and movement based on people coming in and out into the apartment.
Cool. So a net rental yield pre-tax of 1.8% for an Airbnb, which is also abysmal. But, you know, effectively you can still come here quite a few weeks per year, enjoy the property yourself. It pays for itself and you'll make a little bit of money and you're playing capital gains and lifestyle. So this really is the play here.
I think so. Once again, this is a buyer's market. It's been a buyer's market for several years now. We feel it will continue to be a buyer's market. Have the prices gone up? Yes, they have. Do you have to buy right this minute? No, I think it will continue to be a buyer's market for the foreseeable future. And quite frankly, even after it oscillates into a seller's market again, it will continue to be very interesting from a price point perspective when you compare it to London, Paris, Miami, New York, etc.
Yeah, cool. All right, fantastic. So now we are going to go to Monserrat, so the core historical center of Buenos Aires, and we're going to go have a look at something with extremely interesting speculative numbers. So we're going to jump in the cab and go there.
Okay.
So it's a topic that Max doesn't really like discussing because he bought his car last year, right? So you're probably down 20%.
told you not to bring that up, damn it. No, yeah, the prices have gone down, so it's quite possible that if I had waited a year, the price, I would have paid less for the car. I do think, though, also it's got more to do with possibly higher end cars and more luxury vehicles. But generally speaking, all kidding aside, it is a bit of good news because it's one more thing that helps people be able to have, having a car should not be a luxury, having real estate shouldn't be a luxury. So I think it's also something else that tells me, at least, and a great many others, that we're in the right direction, we're going in the right direction.
But it's a painful process. I mean, when I compare prices now in USD terms compared to 8 months ago, for food, for Ubers, everything, not rent, but prices have doubled in USD terms, essentially. So it's a painful process. But I mean, look, 50 years of socialism and an oligarchy that was completely anti-competition is a painful process to unravel. It doesn't happen in 6 months. It doesn't happen in a year. It's going to take a while. It's going to be painful for a while. So the question is, will Argentines be willing to bear the cost of these painful reforms, long enough for the country to really move on to the next stage? Like, the reforms are good. There's no debating that. But it's a painful process. It's a very painful process.
Unfortunately, yes. And all these years and all the poverty that's been created over all these years, sure, the have-nots are the ones that suffer the most. They are the ones who have to put in the scheme of things, do I pay for milk or do I pay for water this month? So those are the ones that are more heavily affected. This president, for what it's worth, he ran under the banner of, we're going to have to tighten our belts. So he didn't tell anyone what they wanted to hear, which is exactly what politicians do not do. They tell people what they want to hear, to your point. So yeah, there's going to be growing pains. They will continue for the foreseeable future. But it's just going to have to be, unfortunately, for a great many, it's going to have to be wait and see.
Beautiful.
Excellent. So let me tell you where we are right now. This section of the city is called Monserrat, and I have to tell you, it is at the heart of everything having to do with Argentine history, both from an architectural standpoint and from a strictly historical standpoint. If you walk 2 blocks that way, you're at the Pink House, which is where the president works, National Cathedral, and clear across on the other end of the avenue, some 7 or 8 blocks down, is the Congress. Now, all throughout, spat in the middle, are buildings which are upwards of 100 years old. This
the
was
most beautiful buildings, right?
Hands down, the most beautiful buildings that you will see in the city. Old buildings, heritage buildings, buildings that each have their own history to them. In fact, this avenue, Avenida de Mayo, was the first paved avenue. So the avenue itself has a lot of history to it. A couple of blocks down, there's also a very renowned cafe called Tortoni, where the likes of Gardel and other tango influencers sat to write their music. So all this area is where the culture of Buenos Aires first came together, first came to be, and from where everything spun out. Now, nowadays, it has become a predominantly commercial area. So a lot of people have their offices here. There's actually a lot of people who also live here, so it's not zoned only for commercial use. You've got both commercial and residential. Now, the area, for all of its potential, is right now not undergoing its best moment. Over the years, it's become, they've been negligent about upkeep. Quite frankly, people don't really walk around here at night. One reason is because it's mainly commercial, but another reason is sometimes security. So it wouldn't necessarily be right now one of the ABC one areas where a foreigner or a local-like would buy. But it's a prospection and it's a projection of a location which will turn around, is already showing some signs of turning around, and will over time have a much higher value than it currently hosts.
Like, every single tourist to Buenos Aires will walk from the Pink House to Congress. It's inevitable.
Yep.
And also, it's not an area where there are fun bars and clubs at night. You have to go to Palermo or San Telmo, which is pretty close by, and then where we were. So people just need to understand this. Now, tell us about the building that where there's speculation is, because it's right here.
Well,
it's so cheap. I mean, we're looking at $400 a square meter.
we're going to look at a few offices which are inside a building which is about 120 years old. It is an office building where you've got lawyers, accountants, engineers, customs agents, all that kind of thing.
And yourself.
And myself. Now, back in the day, the building was a kind of a Harrods type of operation, to where, you know, first floor was ladies' garments, second floor was gentlemen, third floor was whatever electronics they had back then, so forth. Over time, they restructured the building, subdivided everything, and people started buying spaces to where they would have their offices. Currently, that building is strictly commercial, but the thought is for the co-op to revamp it, or rather retweak the code so that it can also be used as residential and people could live there, rent there, what have you. All right, so we're standing on the block where we have our offices, and one block over, I think, is a prime example of what's happening with the rejuvenation process of Monserrat, which is this building over here that is going to be finished in about just under 2 years, and is being prepped for short-term rentals, Airbnbs, that sort of thing. It's going to have studios, and it's going to have smaller one-bedroom units. It's going to be a 6-story building. So this is an excellent example of how this area, erstwhile old area, with older buildings, slowly is coming out of its shell to showcase newer things which will have all the amenities that visitors like to enjoy, while keeping with being in the old area of town with everything culturally and historically that offers.
And price per square meter here, roughly?
Here we're talking about anywhere between $2,700 and $3,000 a square meter.
Okay, in contrast to 400 negotiable office space, potentially convertible.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Let's go check it out.
Check it out.
Yeah, so even though we're talking of rejuvenation, you know, objectively, closed, 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 all of this, all closed. The area is not doing great, let's face it, right? Like there's still a lot of work to be done, but people are starting to pour money into this neighborhood. So look, commercial is a bit dead like everywhere in the world, but residential should be doing better. And then over time, we're gonna start seeing more restaurants and bars. That's the thesis at least, but we're seeing money coming in.
Certainly. So what we're going to look at now behind us is the building that we talked about, which has a collection of offices for a total of $75,000, more or less 170 square meters. The owner, for example, of this restaurant where we're going to step in right now,
Let's go check it out.
he has a lion's share of these units, and so he is spearheading the project to try to gentrify it all and make it more modern and also convert it in residential, not just commercial.
So nice restaurant here, art gallery there, and then he's buying some other part from bankruptcy.
Yep.
So look, the HOA is a little high, right, for these apartments? That's the issue, the holding cost is relatively high.
They are, all told, for all the units, we're talking about $700.
Including property tax.
Including property tax.
Per month.
Yeah.
Cool. So holding costs, carry costs are high, but you're buying for $400 a square meter in just a beautiful part of town with the manager of a restaurant like this, the owner that wants to rejuvenate a beautiful historical building, and you're buying at $400 a square meter for these offices. I mean, as you can tell here, there's nothing really pretty about these offices. I'd say there's a bit of a cap on how luxurious things can become, but it's about buying dirt cheap when there's still chaos in the street. I mean, you see everything's closed down, but rejuvenation is happening.
It sure is. Over time, but yeah, it sure is.
All right, so this is clearly just a speculation, not an investment, right?
It's a speculation, it's a prospection game, and it's a wager at the area, which is now very down, that it will come back up.
Yeah, so look, if you want to play it safe, you go for Palermo, Recoleta, you go first tier. If you have a bit more appetite for risk, you can go for a San Telmo, which is, probably second tier. And this is really a bit rough. I mean, we still see around, it's still a bit rough, but you can't deny money's coming in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the people out there who like to speculate, this is quite interesting.
For sure, absolutely.
Cool. So I wrote a whole report on the Buenos Aires real estate market here, the neighborhoods that are interesting, the neighborhoods you should avoid, as well as some key lessons. There's a link below. And if you're interested in investing in real estate here, or if you just want something for lifestyle, do not hesitate to get in touch with Max in English, in Spanish, even in French. You speak French. There is a link below. Max, thank you very much.
Thank you, once again.
Make sure to download my free ebook, 12 Mistakes to Avoid When Investing in International Real Estate, which you can find on my website, link below. And feel free to follow me on Instagram @TheWandering Investor. I look forward to hearing from you.